Japan's behavior in World War II can only be described as evil.
Nazis. They're essentially a synonym for evil. And, of course, no one's worse than Hitler. But the Japanese in World War II were every bit as horrific as the Germans.
On 6th August 1945, American bomber Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb on the Japanese city of Hiroshima.
A nation that today stands before the entire world as the ultimate symbol of peace, discipline, and unstoppable technology. Bullet trains slicing through the land like bolts of lightning. Robots so flawless they never miss a move.
Japanese robots are taking the world by storm with one of the largest robotics exhibitions of the year.
People so polite it feels unreal. And streets so spotless, even dust thinks twice before landing. Sony, Toyota, Nintendo, not just brands, but living, breathing proof of perfection. But wait, beneath all this shine and sparkle lies a darkness so deep, so cold, that if you really saw it, your nights would never know peace again. A darkness soaked in the blood, tears and screams of millions of innocent souls, yet wiped away so clean from history, it's like it never even happened. There was a time when just the whisper of this nation's name could make every corner of Asia tremble, a fear so deep no language could capture its weight. The real question is, how did an entire nation wash the blood from its hands and stand before the world wearing a perfect mask of innocence? In the 1930s and 40s, Japan had risen as a full-blown imperial superpower. Its soldiers were the definition of discipline, marching perfectly in parades, rifles moving in flawless unison, following every command with machine-like precision. But when it came to humanity, this nation scored an absolute zero. Japan at that time was not merely a country, it was an unstoppable war machine. Across every corner of Asia, its very name had become another word for fear. In December 1937, the streets of Nanking ran with death for 17 long weeks. Japanese soldiers stormed the city, and what happened was far beyond war. It was pure human massacre. Hundreds of thousands were killed. Young and elderly women were abused, some right in front of entire battalions. Children were hacked with swords, their bodies used for nothing but practice. Soldiers even made cruel bets who could behead 100 people the fastest. And in the dark of night, one sound filled the air: the endless, haunting screams of humans. The chain of cruelty didn't stop there. Japan set up official comfort stations. The name sounded innocent, but inside, it was pure human slaughter. These were military-run brothels where thousands of girls from Korea, China were kidnapped and forced into unimaginable horror. Most were only 14 to 17 years old. Every single day, one girl had to face 20 to 30 soldiers. They didn't know night from day, only pain, screams, and a humiliation too awful for words. And when some survivors shared their stories years later, Japan's official answer was shocking. They were voluntary prostitutes. Voluntary? A little girl, ripped from her village, not knowing where her parents were, locked all day in a tiny room surrounded by soldiers, so terrified she was afraid to even breathe. Was that really her choice? But this was just one part of the horrifying truth. The most terrifying secret was hidden in a top-secret facility in Manchuria Unit 731. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary research lab, but inside, it was a human hell. People were used as living test subjects. Plague, cholera, anthrax. These deadly viruses were injected straight into their bodies. Children were left to freeze, just to see how long it would take for their organs to fail. Sometimes their hands, sometimes their legs were cut off. No anesthesia, just so the scientists could observe. Vivisection cutting open a living person, removing their organs, dissecting their body while it still beat, just to watch what happened inside. And when the experiment was over, the victims were burned alive in the incinerator. 1945. After the atomic bombs destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan fell to its knees. White flags everywhere. Surrender. The world's eyes were on one thing: the atomic horror. Burned buildings in Hiroshima, charred bodies in Nagasaki, the silent killer of radiation. Every news headline, every photo told the same story. But in the middle of this ocean of pain, another truth, quietly, secretly, sank beneath the surface. The Tokyo trials began. The Allied forces dragged some of Japan's political and military leaders to court. War crime charges, mountains of evidence, witness statements, everything was laid bare. But this justice was shockingly selective. Some were punished, some executed, yet many, whose hands were soaked in the blood of millions of Asian civilians, walked away completely free. And the biggest black mark is Unit 731. That secret facility in Manchuria where humans were treated like guinea pigs, where plague and cholera were injected for experiments, where living bodies were dissected without anesthesia. You'd think the scientists would face life in prison or even the death penalty. But the shocking truth? America didn't punish them, it protected them. Why? Because these scientists held a scientific treasure, detailed biological warfare research, priceless for any modern war. The Cold War was already heating up. A deadly intelligence race had begun between America and the Soviet Union. The US military knew that if Unit 731's data fell into Soviet hands, the balance of power would shift. So a deal was struck. Give us all your experiment data, and we'll ignore your crimes. You stay safe, your family stay safe, just stay quiet. Millions of Asian civilians' blood became nothing more than a bargaining chip. The value of a stack of papers outweighed the greatest suffering of humanity. And the result of this deal? The monsters of Unit 731 were set free. Some became university professors, others climbed to the top of corporations. No one ever asked whose hands they had cut off, whose organs they had ripped out and recorded in their notebooks. All chapters about massacres, rape, and human experiments were wiped from Japan's school textbooks. What little remained was written in soft, diplomatic words so carefully that not even a hint of blood could be felt. Casualties occurred. Just this much was written to close the case on the millions killed in Nanking. Women were recruited. Just this much was written to cover up the torture of comfort women. Not even a piece of the brutal reality reached the eyes of the new generation. The government had a clear, unspoken order: protect the national image, so the minds of the new generation stay clean. There was strict censorship on the media. TV, films, newspapers discussing the truth about war crimes openly on any platform was forbidden. Anyone who dared to speak out was branded a national traitor. Careers were destroyed, reputations ruined, and some even faced direct threats. Journalists and academics knew that telling the truth would make their lives a nightmare. For countries like China, Korea, and the Philippines, these wounds are still raw. Many comfort women are now in their 80s and 90s, yet when they speak out, their voices still tremble with the memory of horrors they endured. When they spoke up for justice, the Japanese government either ignored them completely or offered fake apologies for show a smile, a handshake, and that was it. Some elderly survivors shared their stories on camera, tears in their eyes, pain in their voices.
I endured so much, she says. They raped me repeatedly.
Yet inside Japan, they were still targeted, silenced, and threatened. Nationalists claimed it was all exaggeration. Some even went further, saying these were made-up stories meant to destroy Japan's good image. The victims, hoping for some closure in the final years of their lives, had to endure humiliation all over again. Meanwhile, the West turned Hiroshima and Nagasaki into a timeless symbol. Hollywood movies, history documentaries, all were buried in the darkest corners of history. Today, Japan stands as a technology giant. Robotics, anime, bullet trains, all come together to create a picture-perfect modern image. Every year, millions of tourists flock to see Tokyo's neon lights and Kyoto's temples. Sony, Nintendo, Toyota, these aren't just brands. They are global symbols of Japan's soft power. To the world, Japan is polite, disciplined, and creative. But for many Asian countries, especially China, Korea, and the Philippines, the name Japan still opens old wounds and stirs memories that refuse to fade. The image still lives in the eyes of their elders. Soldiers' swords, burning villages, screaming women, and scattered corpses everywhere. These wounds have never truly healed, because their truth was never fully acknowledged. Until a nation faces its past, its future stands on a lie. Japan washed its bloody hands so clean that the new generation believes those hands were never stained. Filtered truths in history books, silent gaps in the media, and selective memory in the name of national pride all come together to create a flawless mask. But truth has its own time. And when that time comes, how will this mask survive? Will the world, which today sees Japan as a peaceful utopia, have the courage to face that real face, hidden for so long beneath the shadows of millions of corpses?